Cleveland accent was.
The British lady's
The British
cute.
lady's the best.
Got to keep it real. Back here in First Things First, we're going viral. Georgetown commit Matt McClung at the Allen Iverson Classic. Come on! A ridiculous dunk rocking the AI Hoyas jersey. Boom!
Oh, he rocks the. That's an
it down.
East Bay funk into a reverse two-handed. Wow.
Obviously, that is. People know that already.
East Bay Funk is the name of the dunk that's between your legs, and then he turned it into. Harold Miner made it famous in the NBA Slam Dunk Contest.
Baby Jordan.
Baby Jordan. That was as good as it ever got for Baby Jordan. Look at that.
Not a big guy either.
No, look at him. Look at him next to Iverson. I mean, Iverson only looks big when he's standing next to Kevin Hart.
Iverson's so happy the 76ers are relevant. Man, he's making a comeback.
Yes.
He's making appearances, doing stuff. You see that, too? See, he's a pimp. 3 chains.
I knew it was
Not
something.
1 chain, not 2 chains, 3 chains.
Is it more chains the better? I just want to understand.
I mean, it depends on if you pull it off.
Yeah, but when you just getting on the corner, you got to start with 1 chain.
Just one little baby chain. One baby chain. Couple links. Time for stories to start your morning. Good news, the Warriors beat the Spurs 110-97, because I don't get it at all. So here's
Someone
the
in
only
Houston
one.
greeted Nick, hey, 1 chain,
That's
when he
a
went
true
home.
story. My buddy
Awesome.
Lito. What up, Lito?
Warriors have a 3-0 commanding lead in that series. Tough news, though, for the Warriors. Steph Curry's MCL injury could force him to miss the start of round 2. Nick, how big of a deal is this for Curry and the Warriors?
I mean, who they going to be playing in round 2? The Pelicans?
Pelicans.
Drew Holiday? Rajon Rondo? Anthony Davis? It wouldn't be good for Golden State.
Give me, what do you think Rondo is thinking about with Steph hurt? Now, I know he's trying to concentrate on this series, but how would he look forward for an opportunity to be on that stage again against elite guards?
It's been almost a decade since we've seen Rondo on that level of the playoffs, out of the first round of the playoffs. And we saw how he performed with Boston. There was a series where he's on the court with Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and LeBron James. And he was the best player on the court that series. Man, that could be interesting. If Steph misses the first couple games, the 2 games in Golden State, that could make that series much more interesting than I would have thought.
Sticking with hoops, Joel Embiid returned from injury last night to make his playoff debut. He did not disappoint. Embiid finished with 23 points and 7 boards. Helped the Sixers beat the Heat 128-108 and take a 2-1 series lead. CeCe, how dangerous are the Sixers with Embiid back in the fold?
Very dangerous. I mean, you're talking about a young team that has confidence, and we just can't think. I know right now Nick say, hey, Chris, just calm down a little bit. It's only 2-1. But I'm looking at the last month. How many games this team has won? They've only lost 1 game, and how many, Nick?
19. 18 of 9, or 19 of 20.
And now they have one of the best players coming back in the NBA that there's no answer to. So I look forward to what they can do. The limit to me, the limit for them is the NBA Finals.
And I'm going to go a step past this by taking a step backwards. One of the reasons people are so bullish about the Sixers' chances is because they went on that winning streak, which secured them the 3 seed. We might be feeling a little different if they had the path Cleveland has, which is Toronto in round 2. But they won those 16 straight. They had to win every single one of those to get the 3 seed, and now they don't have to worry about Toronto. They're going to be playing an injured Boston or Milwaukee, assuming they get through Miami. I don't think this series is over, but the way they looked last night with Embiid, they are clearly the superior team.
Don't be hating on Boston. Not yet. Moving on to college football, Alabama's quarterback Jalen Hurts is making headlines. Well, his father is making headlines. Hurts' dad said his son will transfer if he's not the starting quarterback. Hurts was benched in the second half of the national championship game that Alabama went on to win. Nick Saban said he had a positive meeting with Jalen's father, and Jalen has, quote, made a significant amount of improvement. Seems vague. CeCe, what would your advice to Jalen Hurts be?
This is tough because when you go to these top schools, it's what they call getting recruited over, where they recruit kids who are so good that by your sophomore, junior year, and you've had success early, you think, man, I'm getting ready to have a great career here. And then they bring in someone and recruit right over top of you, who is actually a better prospect than you are. And that's what happened to Jalen at Alabama. That's what's happening in Clemson. That's what's happening at Ohio State. Ohio State might have one of their top quarterbacks transferred because they're not the starter. It's a tough situation. If he gets beat out by a true sophomore, which which I believe that he will, he should transfer. He should transfer to another school. He's won a national championships. He's done all he can do at Alabama, but they've recruited over it.
And people should remember, he went to Alabama at 17. He's only 19 years old. So even if he transfers and sits out,
hadn't been redshirted.
Right. I mean, so he would have 2 years left, and nobody wants to sit behind a guy. It's amazing that both starting quarterbacks in the national championship game, Jalen Hurts and Kelly Bryant, might not be the starting quarterbacks for their team week 1 of the next year because Clemson has the #1 quarterback in the country.
Yeah, I saw him in the spring game. He looked real good.
So, I mean, I don't think anyone would blame him if Hurts went on to play somewhere else.
All right, moving on to the pros. With the draft just 6 days away, the Broncos are open for business and trades. John Elway said he's open to trading Denver's #5 overall selection. Plenty of mock drafts had the Broncos taking a quarterback, but there might not be many options left if they trade back. CC, would this be a smart move for the Broncos?
Right now, because they do have Case Keenum there. So they do have kind of a guy, a placeholder for them. So if they decide that, you know something, maybe we'll stay with Case for a couple of years. Or maybe John Elway likes one of the quarterbacks there in the second round. Get a couple multiple picks, move out of 5, get a couple starters. This is a team that still could use an influx of talent. They got a number of question marks. They could use a young offensive lineman besides a quarterback. And if they like a guy in the second round, I could see them trading out or to the back of the first round.
I'm going to talk about them trading in the other direction, trading up to 2. I know that's not what John Elway was alluding to, but if you're telling me the Broncos are going to trade that pick, if Cleveland does select Josh Allen at #1, and you can get the best of the non-project quarterbacks, whether you think that's Baker or Rosen or Darnold, and you only have to move up, the Giants probably open to that because they move to 5. They're either going to get Chubb or Barkley, and the Broncos would finally solidify their quarterback.
I think the price would be too high because if teams will see that Sam is there, and then I believe the asking price, yes, everyone would want to get the 2.
If you're the Giants, though, the Broncos are the only team you can trade with and still get one of those 2 stud playmakers, Barkley or Chubb. Anyone else, you're trading out of the top 5, and you're not getting that true blue chipper.
All right, finally, the NFL schedule was released yesterday, and you better get your popcorn ready. Thursday Night Football will be on Fox this season. It kicks off Week 4 with the Vikings going to L.A. to take on the Rams. The Thursday night schedule is jam-packed. Great head-to-head matchups. CC, how excited are you for Thursday Night Football on Fox?
Very excited that we have the deal. If you look at the overall content that we had, it makes us second to none as far as the networks out there. I think of the NFL from a packaging standpoint, we got 60% of the content here at Fox. So I'm very, very excited given how much I love the NFL. And they start off with a headbanger. Minnesota traveling to Los Angeles. Thursday Night Football in Los Angeles. We've talked about them a lot this offseason.
Yeah.
We've spent a lot of time on the Vikings. We know the type of team that they have coming back with the addition of Kirk Cousins. This is the type of game that helps to decide, man, does one of these teams have home field advantage, or is this the first of 2 matchups that we end up seeing in the NFC? Because definitely the Rams and the Vikings will be at the top.
Well, and like the first 3 weeks of this schedule, you get, I mean, so Vikings at Rams you just talked about. That's in Week 4. Then Colts at Patriots. That's been basically the best rivalry in the AFC for the better part of 20 years. And Andrew Luck, I mean, I believe Andrew Luck's going to be playing football again, so we'll get to see them again. And then Eagles and the Giants, the defending Super Bowl champions and teams trying to get back at it. And I look at the back end, Panthers, Steelers. You know, I mean, you know how much I like Cam, and the Steelers are one of the most entertaining teams in the league. We got I don't know all the machinations on how the schedule's built, but I do know as a football fan that having a big-time game on Thursday is so exciting because Fridays, to have a game that mattered the night before to talk about on Friday leading into Sunday is great. And there's a dozen of them.
Yeah, they made some huge changes with the Thursday night package, so we're very, very smart as far as getting it because now they're not all divisional matchups.
Right.
You see some cross-conference rivalries. You see that compared to what we've had the last couple years on Thursday night. They've been all divisional games, and typically it's hard to make those primetime games because you're locked into playing divisional games.
And because there's not, like Saints-Cowboys is a special game because Saints are only going to play Cowboys typically once every couple, 3 years. The divisional rivalries are awesome, but you know you're getting that game a second time that year. So I'm excited for it. It was a good year for us to get it. It's awesome. I know the pregame show is here in New York City, which is awesome. I'm excited for it.
And 8 of the 11 Fox primetime Thursday night games have at least one playoff team from last year. It was great. Do you have the schedule with all the... Did you bring that in?
My schedule grid?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got, I don't know where it is in my stack. I got a lot of papers here, Jenna Wolf.
Just so you know,
all
it's
256
a piece
games
of paper with
lined out.
180,000 numbers on it.
This weekend, I will pick the winners for all 256 games.
That's not what I was going to say.
As I always do.
I thought you were going to memorize the whole thing. Just because you had
in my ear, I just got called a nerd, so I think we're supposed to move on.
With many R's.
All right, that's all right. I'm coming for you, Keta.
Moving on to the Pelicans. You're not coming. You have to catch me first. They returned home after crushing the Blazers twice on the road, only to crush them once at home. Solid performances from Nikola Mirotic and Anthony Davis. 58 combined points. Pelicans will have an opportunity to get their first playoff sweep in franchise history. Nick Wright, I'll start with you. How have the Pelicans been able to just absolutely dominate the Portland Trail Blazers?
Well, we knew going into this series the Pelicans would have the best player on the court. But I think the expectation was the Blazers would have the next two. So it turns out the Pelicans have had the best player on the court, and the second best player on the court, and the third best player on the court. And when you've got the top 3 guys, that's how you're up 3 games to nothing. That's how you are able to dominate a series. And I was so impressed with what they did last night. Because when you take 2 games from Portland in Portland, and you know, man, we only need to win 1 of these home games, and we're up 3 games to 1. Teams have come back from down 3-1, but it is exceptionally rare. To come out and in the first quarter win the basketball game, 36-20. The Pelicans won this series by 9 quarters. 2 games and a quarter, series over. Because you win game 3 to go up 3-0, it's over. They took it so seriously for a team that doesn't have a ton of experience. I know you're probably going to want to talk about the coach. Alvin Gentry's done a great job. This team has 4 above-average players. And those 4 players, Mirotic, the 2 guards, and Anthony Davis, are playing so well, their lack of depth hasn't hurt them, and they've just crushed Portland.
A number of things have happened, and if you're going to talk about them, you can talk about the Brow as far as giving out credit. You also have to talk about Gentry as the coach. When Boogie Cousins got hurt, Alvin Gentry went to his staff, and they came up with a plan. The only way we're going to be able to maintain this success that we've had is we have to change our style. And they went to a fast pace, and they were going to get up and down the court more. Also, Anthony Davis told the coaching staff and his teammates that he was going to take a page from Russell Westbrook's book when he lost Kevin Durant. So his attitude was he was going to try to dominate the game. Not only on his offensive end, defensive end, he was going to try to control the game like Westbrook. So for me, for a younger player to kind of pick up on this, for a coaching staff to be able to make adjustments, and their calling card is defense. All right? That's how they've gotten this commanding lead on Portland. Portland has not been able to get to the spots on the court. They have not been able to run their offense the way they typically run their offense. The Pelicans have made them uncomfortable, and that's how they have had this commanding lead. And Nick, you made a great point about the first quarter with a young team, because when people think about the teams that are young, they don't look at, well, what about the experience that Rondo has and some of the other players. They just look at the totality of them. So they are very, very young. For them to take command of that game in the first quarter shows a lot of maturity.
What about this Drew Holiday-Damian Lillard matchup? I don't think it's one that any of us saw coming, that they would be dominating by Drew Holiday, and all of a sudden the Blazers find themselves down 0-3.
Well, I want to talk about Lillard because he's one of my favorite players in the league, and Lillard burst onto the scene, his first playoff series ever. He shot nearly 50% from the field and hit something that is exceptionally rare in NBA history. A buzzer beater to win a series. A walk-off to win the series against Houston in round 1. Since then, that was the first round in 2014. Since then, he's played in half a dozen series. He is shooting less than 40% in those series. In this series, Damian Lillard is shooting 33%. He has been a guy that has not, post that first series of his career, we're now got a 4+ year sample size of that in the playoffs. So they're in the playoffs basically every year. where his game has not translated the way we would expect. Now, sometimes that's been because, well, the other team's like, if we stop Lillard, then we stop the Blazers. This year, McCollum's better. They have a healthy Nurkic, which they didn't have last year. He's just gotten his lunch eaten by Drew Holiday throughout this series. It's really disappointing.
And it's a bad matchup for him because explosive as he is, he's herky-jerky off the dribble and change of pace. Drew Holiday is stronger, faster, and bigger than him. But also, Drew can play up on him because the only team in the Western Conference that has a rim protector are the Pelicans. So it's a bad matchup for Portland because of Drew Holiday and his size. He's explosive. And if you get past him, he's got to deal with the brow before he can finish at the rim. And his shot selection just has been awful in this series. I mean, settling for too many 27, 28-footers.
And you're forgetting about Rudy Gobert. But aside from Rudy Gobert, the team
absolutely.
with the rim protector. The one other thing about the Pelicans that maybe we should have seen this coming a little bit, they're 44-26 through 70 games this year. Then they're 5-7 to finish the year. And those, I know they still got the 3 seed, but it's not like they had the 3 seed locked up. They on the final day of the season, they could have fallen all the way, I think, to the 5 line. So they limped into the playoffs to a degree. They weren't able to turn it back on to where they were. And the Pelicans playing, they now have a better winning percentage without Boogie than with Boogie, which I never would have seen coming.
Pelicans can close this out Saturday night, Game 4.
Boogie was at the game last night.
Yes, he was. He looked a little tan. I wonder if he got that in Vegas or in Southern California.
Coming up, could the Giants be making I'm going to call it a mistake, passing down a quarterback? That's next on First Things First.